Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for King Arthur, The Legend of the Sword. As always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start with the furry, it's a medieval time period, so you're going to get horses, but there's also dogs, and they go a little crazy in one scene. And then there's more horses. There's also snakes and falcons, hawks, eagles, birds. There's at least a bird. And snakes, snakes of notable size and rodents of unusual size, one might say. And yeah, so I'd say there's a decent amount of furry things in this movie. So moving on to the good, the bad. So this movie stars Charlie Hunnam, who is absolutely awesome as always. So he's always a win. You might remember him from Pacific Rim. He does a fantastic job in that movie, as well as this movie. Jude Law, who is always amazing, just fantastic. And Djimon Hounsou, who is also always a win. And then there's even Eric Bana, who is not always a win, but he does good in this movie. And then there's also Aidan Gillen, who you might remember as Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. He's in this, does a fantastic job. So, I love all the little side characters in this movie. I love their names, I love their attitudes, I love their interaction, I love their inspiration. This movie is a Guy Ritchie film, which means that there's going to be amazing action sequences and at least one super fast talking scene where people are talking here, referencing this time period going on over here, and then it kind of goes back and forth between what these people are talking about while this is happening over here, and then coming back and then be like, you get it up, yeah, okay, you going on, going back and forth. Guy Ritchie does that in pretty much all of his movies, I feel like, and there's two, I'd call it two scenes of that in this movie, and it's awesome. I like it. If you haven't seen a Guy Ritchie film, I highly suggest you do. A lot of them are really good. If you haven't seen any Guy Ritchie films, I would say, you know the Ant-Man, that character who's always talking really fast and giving you the summary of the events that happened and say, oh yeah, man, that's really deep. And that guy, if you like those scenes, you will like the scenes that I'm talking about in this movie. All right? Also, if you liked awesome action sequences ever, this movie is in it. So I think that this is one of the top 10 movies ever made. It is absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend it to everyone. So they do the exact appropriate amount of slow-mo in any scene that they have slow-mo. It's the exact right amount to keep you interested, to show you the awesomeness of the thing that is happening, keeping your focus where it needs to be without detracting from the overall speed and intensity of the action that is going on. And let me tell you, the intensity of things that are going on, holy shit, the music in this, watch the first 10 minutes of this movie. If you are not just blown away by the action that is shown, the amazing CGI that is implemented in a way that you can't tell CGI, but obviously there's magic, so it has to be CGI. And the fucking music, man, the music in this is so intense, and it makes itself known and adds to every single scene in this movie. It is fantastic, absolutely amazing music. So hats off to the people in this film that music is fantastic. Also, the pacing is absolutely perfect. The character development, the journey of each one that is on, the motivation between each one. I already mentioned the CGI, but also the scale. The scale of this movie is fantastic. There are some movies where they're oh, there's kingdom this and Lord that and blah blah blah, and everything's just so small and contained and whatever else, and it doesn't work. In this movie, they have the exact right scale. They have the immense scale that you would imagine for a kingdom such as this that they are talking about, and all the different sets, and I call them sets, but the exterior events and places that they're at, as well as the interiors, and then the faraway shots showing where they are in this large area. They have the exact right amount of faraway shots to establish scale, and then getting in with the mids to see, and then up close and keeping you familiar. This movie had an amazing use of its budget. So they just did such a fantastic, it reminds me of Lord of the Rings with the scale of the environments that they're in, and then the interiors that they're in, and all the different armor and pieces, and they have, everyone feels like they are wearing worn pieces of clothing. It's not they just, oh, we made this for the movie, here you go. Every single character has wardrobe that makes me believe that this character has been wearing this wardrobe in this environment, and that is a true thing. So hats off to the wardrobe department for making those look lived in and like worn in an appropriate way. So awesome job there. And I really like how they implemented the mages in this. So the mages are conveyed beautifully. So like it's set in a medieval time period, but as if magic had been real. And how they implement the magic is like they have the mages, and I really like how they implemented them in this movie, because this movie is such a good job of the show not tell mentality, because it doesn't have to run you through like, oh, mages can only do this and mages can do that and they have this ability to do blah 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 and they can't do this and here's what happens when they're like, they don't have any of that shit, because you don't need it, because they show you what is happening with the mage. Like, you can very easily understand the powers of the mages, how they're implementing their magic, what their effects are, and kind of what their limitations could be. And it's just so awesome to see that when they have just a movie that has perfectly implemented the magic in it. Is just awesome to see. And like, really the only negative thing that I can even come up with is that the opening like title and like the very brief, like, I don't know, 2 lines of like opening explanation, if you will. The title sequence, like the font used is super skinny and super tall, and even on a relatively large TV, I kind of have to squint to be able to read it. I don't know, maybe it's one of those fonts that still holds up on a very tiny screen. I haven't bothered to watch this on a tiny screen recently, but on a big screen, it's still a little bit hard to read. So other than I think choosing too elongated of a font, that's like the only negative thing I have to say about this movie, because everything else, Charlie Hunnam's energy, his sass, his character, the motivation, and how everything is edited and cut together, like, just absolutely fantastic. So I don't have anything negative to say about this. I'm sad that this movie is clearly not going to get a sequel, and I feel like they were going for a sequel because they have King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Like, King Arthur is big, but then they have Legend of the Sword. And with that subtitle going on there, it really feels like that they were setting up for a sequel where it'd be like King Arthur and the Legend of Merlin, or the other thing that's going on, or the blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And this movie, really unfortunately, had a $149 million budget, beautifully used, totally worth it, $175 million budget, but it only made $149 million in the theater, as far as I saw on IMDb. So definitely didn't make enough to get a sequel, which is really unfortunate, because this movie deserves to be seen by more people, because it is just awesome-tacular. I highly recommend you go and see this movie if you like any of the people that I mentioned, and if you like a good magic medieval action movie that has awesome dialogue, amazing music, everything else. Just go and see this, or stream it somewhere. You will not be disappointed. That's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.